Norway himself, with terrible numbers, assisted by that most disloyal traitor, the Thane of Cawdor, began a dismal conflict, till that Macbeth and Banquo, lapped in proof, confronted him with self-comparisons, point against point rebellious, arm against arm, curbing his lavish spirit, and to conclude, the victory fell to us.
Great happiness!
No more the Thane of Cawdor shall deceive our bosom interest. Go pronounce his present death.
I see it done.
And with his former title, greet Macbeth.
I was just watching a tragedy of Macbeth. The last guy that spoke, then they chucked him on the ground or whatever, said it a bit better. But yeah, it's funny how, like, if you watch this, if you listen to the way they're talking, they're sort of reading out the script from the book, and like, I'll put my face on, hang on. Ta-da. So, the funny thing about Shakespeare, right? I don't criticize people. I just put out my opinion on things, that's all. So, if I'm saying, oh, I don't like Microsoft Windows, that's not a personal attack on someone's work. It's just the way I think it should be better, because I like to see things in the world in harmony and in love, and I like environment I love to live in, so that's the only reason I say things I do, is to make things more how I think life should be, and it's usually to help animals, because they're the ones really suffering a lot of stress and trauma, and children and people that can't defend themselves, so as I've grown up in life, I've become more aware of my role as more of a kind of a Superman, a justice man, but I'm not a punisher. I'm not someone who goes out and commits punishment on criminals or something. About justice is where it's almost like preventing the problem by changing the world. So criminals don't have to be criminals, they can just be normal people. They don't have to suffer because the world's too hard to live in. They have to do all these bad things. That's more justice to me, is improving things so we live better, so we don't do bad things. That's more justice to me, and that's what I'm always trying to get across is, I'm a good guy, I'm not someone out to get anyone or anything. I sit at home, I do a bit of what I can, because I've got no money, because, the way the money system's set up doesn't favour me, because I'm a good person. I don't commit crimes, so I can't just go out and do prostitution or do things to get money that normal people would probably go and do and risk their lives to do, because I've already gone to heaven. I can't risk my life, so I have to protect myself and my people I love. So, but yeah, Shakespeare, the way they say it's kind of funny. I can't think of any lines off the top of my head, but if this day thou will vanquish thy sword and call to thy arms repentance for me, to defend my brother or whatever. They talk sort of like in this movie, I've noticed so far, and it's not a criticism on the movie. Everyone has their own way of reading things and interpreting, and I just remember the way it was set on stage when they did the plays. And it was first written, the plays were tragedies, but it was, I don't know what you call it. It's got the jester face and the sad face. So, the way the plays were, the way that, if you read Shakespeare the way it really is, Shakespeare's a joke in a way. Like Shakespeare, he's quite a funny man, really. He's very charismatic, really happy, and he'd come out on stage with one of those big circular cummerbund, whatever they're called. They've got the little ripples in it, and have a big gown, and I think like a little pointy hat or something on his head, like one of those big fluffy, those big sort of beret looking big sort of artist hats or something. And it's hard to describe Shakespeare because it's a different time. Now we're very serious about certain things. Back then, you never spoke about anything private or personal anywhere. Like, definitely not sex or anything like that anywhere. It was you never saw it anywhere you went. If you ever did it, it was your private thing, and then you didn't tell anyone or anything. It was just between you and your wife. Or if you went to a brothel, you just snuck in the back, and then you go upstairs and they just pull you into a door, and then you go home, and no one ever saw anything going on. So when I see it on the screen here, they're saying all this stuff right out in public, to the whole world. He's out in the front of the steps of the castle, whatever, talking to the king. It looks really funny when I remember what the real plays were like. It was like this whole stage would be dark, and then you just see this. You'd hear a voice, I can't remember the first line of Hamlet. It was, Macbeth. I mean, so I can't remember if Hamlet is Hamlet Macbeth, or is that a different book? I get confused, but I've never read the recent ones. Hamlet, Shakespeare. So you got Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth. I'll have to look it up because right now I can't think. I'll look it up for a second. I just like to be factual because when I remember things, sometimes things blur together with my. If I don't do things like now that everyone knows about, I could get it wrong. So I just want to check. I think Macbeth's a different play, isn't it, than Hamlet? I can't think if it is or not. Shakespeare's Macbeth, and then Shakespeare's Hamlet. I think they're two different books or plays. Macbeth, Hamlet. I can't think. I've had so many other things on my mind, fixing my car and stuff like that. It's running good now. Turbo's kicking in. I notice when the fuel gets really low, the turbo switches off, and you got to rev it really hard to get anywhere. So I've got to be mindful of that. I think when the fuel gets low, or it feels like someone's somewhere switching off my turbo remotely. I don't know if they can do that or not. I'll just have to check and find out, because I don't want to drive a car if I don't know how it works. So there's Shakespeare, Macbeth, Shakespeare's Macbeth, and then there's Shakespeare, Hamlet. Yeah, so two different. I thought there's something to do with one of the stories was inside of another one. I think it's the one with. There's a play within a play. I can't think what it is. The one with, what is it? A Midsummer Night's Dream or something has a play within a play or something. I can't think what it is. I get a bit confused because I haven't studied it this lifetime. I just go by my memories. So, say for Midsummer Night's Dream, right, which is all about romance and sadness and missing people, and here it is, Midsummer Night's Dream, entire play. Right, because things are private, you wouldn't say half of it out in public, sort of things, Scene 1. Now fear Hillipota, Our nuptial hour draws on apace, for happy days bring in another moon, but oh, methinks how slow this old moon wanes. She lingers my desires, like to a stepdame or a dowager, long withering out a young man's revenue. So that's Theseus, and then Hippolyta says, 4 days will quickly steep themselves in night, 4 nights will quickly dream away the time. And then the moon, like to a silver bow, new bent to heaven, shall behold the night of our solemnities. Theseus says, go Philostrate, stir up the Athenian youth to merriments, awake the pert nimble spirit of mirth, turn melancholy forth to funerals, the pale companion is not for our pomp. So this is all original. This is how it really goes. Now, Holopa, I wooed thee with my sword, and won thy love doing thee injuries. But I will wed thee in another key, with pomp, with triumph, and with revelling. So that's the first scene. It's not a good one really to talk about. There's not many people there. There's only Theseus, Hippolyta. And there would have been another person there. I think Philostrate might be, trying to remember. And Philostrate is in there's little things around it, little markers. So it says, enter Theseus, Hippolyta, and Philostrate with others. So the little markers indicate over scene, act, scene 1, and Philostrate. When it says wanes, all right, when it says new, and when it says Philostrate exits, so they're all the Philostrate bits. So he comes in and he says wanes. He's interrupting there. So that's his scene. This is his scene. Act 1, scene 1 is Philostrate. So this would have been the original one, the little markers. They probably might have looked different. But so the way the scene would have been read, it's a bit like music. There's things you got to know. So when it says enter Theseus, Hippolyta, Philostrate with others. So Philostrate is out of sight. You don't see him at all, right? He's not there because when it says that the act around it, that's his scene. So if he's in the scene, if it's his scene, you don't see him. He's not in there. So then you see Theseus and Hippolyta standing by themselves together. You don't see in Shakespeare any more than 2 people on stage. They're all written for 2 people. So because they're all the shows are just 2 people on stage. So Philostrate is like implied. That's the little implied means hidden or whatever. So with others implies there's other people around. You might hear noises or something, but there's only the 2 people, Theseus and Hippolyta, because they're all love stories, all of them. So it says, now fair Hippolyta, our nuptial hour. So this is Theseus saying this, and you would just see over sort of off to the side of the stage a little light with just like a gown cloaked over with the face hidden. You'd hear, now fair Hippolyta, our nuptial hour, and he's sitting there talking. Draws on space, 4 happy days bring in another moon, but oh, methinks how slow this old moon. And then you'd hear Philostrate say wanes, and then you hear Theseus say, she lingers my desires, like to a stepdame or a dowager, long withering out a young man's revenue. And then you'd see a little light come on, or they wouldn't probably use lights, but you'd see sort of an area sort of be unveiled with a sheet or something, and it would say 4 days will quickly steep themselves in night, 4 days will quickly dream away the time, and then the moon like to a silver bow. And then you'll hear Philostrate, who's off not on the stage, hidden away, say new. And then Hippolyta says, bent in heaven shall behold the night of our solemnities. So they're all bent over, and she's saying she'll behold the night because it's all dark. And they're solemnities. They're by themselves. Solemnities means by themselves. So she's over one side, he's over the other. Then Theseus says, "Stir up the Athenian youth to merriments. I'll go Philostrate. Stir up the Athenian youth to merriments. Awake the pert and nimble spirit of mirth. Whatever. Turn Macaulay forth to funerals. The pale companion is not for our pomp." So you probably, Philostrate exiting would be implied. And he would say, because it says Philostrate exits, he would say, "Hippolyta, I wooed thee with my sword and won thy love doing thy injuries, but I will wed thee in another key with pomp and triumph and with revelling." So Philostrate really is not a person. Philostrate is just like an evil spirit, which is part of Theseus. So Philostrate is like Theseus's. A Philostrate back then would have been sort of like secret desire, sort of to take Hippolyta, Then next scene, enter Aegus and his daughter Hermia and Lysander and Demetrius. So then you got happy be Theseus, our renowned duke. That's Aegus, and then Theseus says, "Thanks, good Aegus. What's the news with thee?" They might be standing sort of other side of the stage. They always stood apart, You wouldn't see them touching much, except for the very end, they'd hold each other together, So Aegus would say, full of vexation, say all his lines, which is long part. They might even be lying under a cloak with the paper, to read it, hidden away. They'd hide everything, And Theseus would say, "What you say, Hermia, be advised, fair maid. To you your father should be as a god, one that composed your beauties, yea, and one." And it goes on and on. So then, this is Theseus and Aegisthus. And then it gets down to Hermia. So is Lysander. You wouldn't see Hermia or Lysander on stage. Theseus and just the Jesus would be standing there. And then you'd see, "I would my father looked but with my eyes." And then he says, "I do entreat your grace to pardon me. I know not by what power I am made whole, nor how it may concern my modesty. In such a presence here to plead my thoughts, but I beseech your grace that I may know the worst that may befall me in this case, if I refuse to wed Demetrius." So, where's Demetrius's bit? "Relent, sweet Hermia and Lysander, yield thy crazed title to my certain right." That's Demetrius. Then Lysander would say, "You have her father's love, Demetrius. Let me have Hermia's. Do you marry him?" So these two wouldn't be on stage, Demetrius or Lysander. They're like the thoughts of Aegisthus and Theseus. So Hermia is Aegisthus' thoughts, and Theseus would have Demetrius's thoughts. So if you read it that way, it will make more sense, I'm fairly sure. But either it was different in blood, you see. So he's saying, of course, the course of true love never did run smooth, but either it was different in blood. So Lysander is like imaginary in his mind, So this what makes Shakespeare really interesting, is the way the characters exist. And it's never been understood since Shakespeare passed away. So after that, they did it all wrong. They thought they were all different characters. They made these big stage shows. And really, Romeo and Juliet was just two people, really. The whole show, really. All the rest would have been implied. Would have been two characters. There might have been, this and that. Oh, here we go. Quince and Bottom. This is the comedy part. Enter Quince the carpenter, and Snug the joiner, and Bottom the weaver, and Flute the bellows mender, and Snout the tinker, and Starveling the tailor. So they would put a funny scene in, and then later on they put a sad one, then a funny one, then a sad one. It would go on like that. Quince and Bottom, all you'd probably see is someone with their bottom showing, and the other one, Quince, would be someone eating some toast or something. So they do funny things like that, Here, Peter Quince. So Flute is Quince's. Flute is Bottom's. Bottom's would have, he'd put a flute up his ass and stand with it on stage, and that would be the funny part. It wouldn't show it, his ass. It would just be implied that he's showing his ass, and have a flute sticking out of it. And of course, Snout and Snug and all this, they're not really characters. They're just stuff that is implied. Snout and Snug. They've rewritten it a bit over the years, put them as characters. But even Robin is just a bird, and Fairy is just a fairy, and things like that. Then I slip I from her bum, down topples she, and Taylor cries and falls into a cough. And then the whole choir hold their hips and loft, and wakes in the mirth and knees and swear. And merry hours never wasted there, but room, Fairy, here comes Oberon. You hear my mistress, would that he be gone. I'll met my moonlight, proud Titania. So yeah, Oberon and Titania, just that would be planets. They'd show them in the sky, and there'd be someone talking like they were planets talking, and it's very weird. Like Shakespeare was very into planets. He had a house full of planetary spheres that would rotate in the. He was studied the sky and all this sort of stuff. Ancient philosophers they had all the time in the world to work on things. There was no sort of industry or anything, so they just did their own craft. Everyone did their own stuff, like made their own food, everything, in their own homes. So yeah, so I hope that's interesting. And I'll get back and watch the rest of this, and I'll pop it on my YouTube. Hopefully they don't classify it as copyright, just showing a bit of the scene. But yeah, I'll see you later.